We now know that resistance training is a very important part of your total wellness program, and it can be very beneficial in particular for weight loss, but also for prevention of heart disease. In the past, we never allowed anybody with heart disease to go anywhere near weights. We were worried that the blood pressure would get too high and you'd blow out a ventricle and it would be very harmful. We now know that that is not the case, although safety still needs to be thought through, especially your blood pressure. If your blood pressure is elevated, then you shouldn't be lifting weights. If you have symptoms of heart failure, again, you need to be checking with your physician and your exercise physiologist. And in both cases, and in all cases, focus on low weight as opposed to doing really high weight with low repetitions. Do low weights and a lot of repetitions. You get probably even better benefits. So just an overview of some of the basics of resistance training. The first one is overload, which means you need to challenge your muscle in order for it to get stronger. So, and that's really not too hard to do. Again, we're not trying to become bodybuilders here, but you do need to put an adequate amount of stress on the muscle if you want it to get stronger. You also want to use progression. We use progression for aerobic fitness, and you especially want to use progression for resistance training, which means continuing to increase the workout, either by adding a weight, adding a repetition, adding a set, doing something that makes it a little bit harder each time. And just as with cardiovascular and aerobic exercise, your training effect will also overcome this. So even though you're doing more, you're becoming stronger, so it'll actually feel like you're doing about the same amount of effort. Specificity means that, and in particular with resistance training, you're only going to get benefits in the muscles that you're utilizing. Okay, so if you're trying to increase the strength of your abdominal muscles, then you need to be doing abdominal exercises. Only doing arm exercises won't strengthen your legs, and vice versa. Rest and recovery are as important as the exercise part of the program. It typically takes your muscles about 48 hours to recover from an exercise, especially if you've overloaded the muscle. So lifting weights every day using the same muscle groups is not a good idea, and you can run the risk of some chronic fatigue if you do that, and you definitely will stop achieving benefits that you hope for. Warm-up is important. We discussed warm-up in cardiovascular exercises. It's equally important for resistance training, especially to increase the temperature and the flexibility in the muscles before you start overloading them. Pace, there's virtually no advantage to going fast, and some disadvantages. You have fast and slow twitch muscle fibers. If you're going too fast, you may only be allowing the fast twitch fibers to fire. If you go at a slower pace, you actually get more of your muscle fibers in action, which is a good thing. It also forces you to be breathing properly and using good techniques. So don't go too fast. Breathing is also very important, especially for resistance training. When we talk about blood pressure, and you may have a systolic blood pressure of 120 millimeters of mercury, if you hold your breath and bear down, the pressure inside your chest can rise to over 300. So the reason that we have you breathe or count or talk is to ensure that air is passing through your vocal cords. If you're doing that, then the pressure inside your chest will not be as high. And finally, posture. It does you no bit of good. You're not getting extra credit points for doing more weight if you're doing it incorrectly. Make sure that you're standing up straight, that you're doing the technique as prescribed, and that you are using the muscle groups that you intend to be using, and going through the entire range of motion. Only going through a certain percentage of that range of motion is usually not helpful. Stretching is also very important and goes hand in hand with resistance training, although stretching can also be done with aerobic exercise as well. Stretching will prevent injuries, help you to relax, and improve your circulation. The best time to stretch is after your exercise session The warm-up is designed to increase the muscle temperature. Once your muscles are stretched and used, then that's a really good time to stretch those muscles and get more flexibility gains. You want to hold the stretch for 20 to 30 seconds. You don't have to be holding it much beyond 30 seconds, but short stretches are not as effective. And definitely no bouncing. You want to have static stretches so that you don't run the risk of tearing a muscle. And again, focus on breathing. Just like with the resistance training, do not hold your breath while you're performing your stretch.